computer. And we start the chat. Hello. Hello,
Yes.
Annie. Hello, Jorge.
Hey,
Hey, hey.
And
Nice to meet you. To see you.
nice to meet you. Nice to
yeah.
meet you.
It's the first time you actually.
This is the first time that I
Talk.
see Annie. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, like, actually, it's funny. Like last days, like I was thinking, like I felt like I met Annie before, but we never met in real life, I think.
I know.
But
No, huh?
No.
Oh. Where do you live? You live in Holland, Annie?
No, no. I live in France, but I'm going to move back to Holland in next September.
Yeah, I saw something in Facebook. Like, are you originally from Holland?
Yes, and I lived more than 35 years in France, I think, for now. So it's kind of strange to go back, but it's also very nice. It's like a new project again.
Yeah. Imagine.
Yeah, you both don't live in your own country either, in your mother,
I live in
and you
Brussels.
don't speak your mother tongue either.
No, no. Like we have this conversation with with some person. We are doing some festival of performing arts and science in Belgium, and I'm doing part of the curatorial team. And we were talking with this person, which is he should be 75 or something like this. And then we were talking about I was sharing with him that I think one of the reasons that I feel comfortable with Naoto, or things that just happen naturally, was because I don't have like my conceptual speaking or my work was developed in Europe. So when I try to speak about what I'm doing in Spanish, it's very difficult to do it. And when I met Naoto at some point, we were sharing these things, and so I felt I understood these things.
Yeah, same for me. And I have been thinking a lot about language, and at a certain point in my life, je connais que le mot en français, revendiquer. What is revendiquer? Vous ne savez pas. You don't know.
I understand.
Anyway,
yeah.
I said, now I'm going to talk the way I want to talk. I don't bother anymore about rules or anything. And that was for the first time when I could start really working and feeling confident. And I didn't think or didn't want to think about mother tongue anymore. But I've been 6 weeks in Holland, and I noticed life is so much easier in your mother tongue.
I was thinking that, right?
Actually, I'm going to Japan next month, like in a couple of weeks, actually, and really looking forward. Like last time I was there was 2 years ago already. So yeah, I mean, I can't really imagine how it's going to be like. I mean, I need to quarantine for the first 2 weeks or so at my parents' place. But yeah, I'm really looking forward, and maybe I don't know how people will receive what I'm doing, but I guess I shouldn't really care, because that's like the problem in Japan, that you have to be like in line with everyone else, right? You cannot do something completely like different, like how we do what we do with best practices with Jorge. It's like something Japanese people wouldn't do.
Well, yeah, I think it's nobody. I mean, so I was with this guy. We went to see this performance in Nemo. By the way, I didn't knew about this place. Nemo in Amsterdam. It's like a place for art and science. It's a museum also, and they have a studio. So in Belgium, we have a place that is called Imal. That is what I will call a similar Nemo, but we don't have this sinking Titanic. This is a huge museum they have. It's a very big space they have. In Belgium, we don't have that. We have the studio part and some museum. And I don't know why I was telling that. What was I talking about?
Best practices or what?
Yeah. So then I was in the way back then. I was trying to say. I was trying to explain somehow we think really already, because I'm getting I guess more comfortable speaking about what we do. So already, depending who is talking, then I will in short try to tell what we do. Nevertheless, it's very difficult to imagine, right? So yeah.
It's
It's very difficult.
because it's between you. It's something you do yourself. I try to watch it several times. You don't really see it, or not always. It's I can get a feeling somehow by imagining how
Like
things are
watching
going
what we
around.
do,
Yeah,
like what
what you
Jorge
do.
and I, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
The practice.
yeah, your practice. It is a practice. It really is. It needs
Is
the
it
body.
is in the state of its constant state of becoming. I'll often use that word. And
Hmm.
or is something is or is the promise of something yet to come every time we practice. So it's something that is in the air somehow. Like what you see, like the archiving is an archive of what happened, but it's not the practice. The practice is, as you said, I think I agree with you. I think the practice happens when we practice, because basically we have to deal with the bodies and the space that we have. And that's no different from the performance side of it, because we are already sometimes working on the performance. Now we tried in the Impulse Dance the first time in Vienna, and then we did 2 times in France in the Performing Art Forum in PAF. And I think it's the same in both aspects. Like, although we have done more than 40 practices digitally through video calls, and we have done only 3 performances in the space, I think something that is clear to me is that the practice is, as you said, a practice, and is only in that aspect is similar how dance is, that it's an embodied experience. And I speak only from the point of view of me as a choreographer and as a dancer, and I cannot speculate that much about the audience. And that's something that it comes very often, because as you said, is as we were speaking, we start this thread of communication now, the what are we doing is very complicated somehow to grasp or to have a sense of it. So I will agree with you, Annie, when you say like, but there is somehow is a framework that now to myself develop, and I think it makes very much sense for us, but I can imagine it maybe make not too much sense for different people, because it's just me and Naoto having fun.
I mean, that's where like we start
Research.
to, yeah, it's a research. And then like now, I think as a kind of next phase or like another branch, that what we say is to make a workshop out of this, like how can we involve others while we
Mhm.
protect, like kind of protect what we do in a way. And this is something we have been discussing, we haven't done. But I thought maybe that's something we can talk about, what it can be.
We propose this to, like, some of the things that is clear to me also is that this means time, basically, and times means like, yeah, I mean, this means time. And so to take the time to be more, let's say, conscious and then working towards different aspects, one of the aspects of is the workshop, for instance, it means that we have to get clear economical remuneration of what we do. Otherwise, then, so because then it becomes when we start speaking about labor, basically, because the practice, as I speak, is just so fun to do, then of course, like, even if nobody's paying us, like, how many times we have, I think we have more than how many hours we have a content of internet right now. How,
150 or more.
like more than 150 hours of content that is,
Crazy.
And by the way, we don't get I'm not eligible for like YouTube, like monetization. So I don't get
why?
any money from YouTube. Just
Because
to clarify.
yeah, but the thing is, once you get like 1,000 subscribers, from that point, I think you start getting some.
And 4,000 watch hours, which is actually more difficult. I
Okay.
heard. Yeah.
Well, we
Anyways,
have, yes, okay, yes. So yeah, I mean, we were speaking about like the money side of it, like I was bringing it because, as I said, the practice is just such a joyful place for Naoto and myself to be, to liberate different sort of energies and stuff. I speak from my own experience with this. Is the way how I found dance back again, because I stopped dancing. I'm a professional dancer and I stopped dancing 5 years ago with my own traumas, I think, with the stage and stuff. And then on the way, I was not searching, but on the way I met Naoto, and then I started dancing again. So, and I'm super happy with it. So this is just such a pleasure for us to do. So then when we speak about the workshop, for instance, like, because for me, this is when we need to start, like, then we spoke at some point about responsibility, or I use those words in the sense of like sharing or speaking clearly about something, or grounding the practice, and start like searching for visibility, or communicate ideas in order that other people can get benefit from what we do. That requires somewhat labor in my head, the idea of labor, that I'm working on this, and deconstructing this idea through Daniela's, for instance, Daniela Bersham, it's a person that we met in PAF. And she has a practice that is about somehow now is really at the core is labor, and how you can deconstruct labor in a way that you can actually she's very advanced in these topics that I don't completely get it. But this idea of labor and understanding that it's just life, and how to care about others and make it possible for others, without the need to feel there is something that you have to do and it's a burden. But that could be so simple as, do I have to brush my teeth, for instance? Do I have to cook for myself? Those things that, like, sometimes we are working and I'm like, I don't want to cook, but I need to eat.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this kind of aspects is something that yeah, when we speak about the workshop, for instance,
yeah, I mean, this is something like I wanted to ask Kani, because she's doing a lot of like performances, but also workshops. I think they are like all online, right?
My workshops, not only, I've
okay.
done a whole week in Lyon at a certain point, but it was about online work, but we did it in space together. So I'm not only online, but most of it is indeed online. And I think I couple that to what Jorge was saying somehow, because what I think is, if you talk about earning money and labor, that's two different things already for me. And as soon as you want to earn money, institutions comes in, and then everything becomes political at a certain point. So why do I say that? I think it's important to realize these kind of things. You cannot keep your joy completely as soon as you want to be paid for it. I think that's almost impossible, because being paid is being paid by someone.
Yeah.
So,
Or
but
then,
that you are aware of it probably,
yeah,
of these kind of things.
I think
but then it's like,
for us,
yes,
it's like kind of trade-off that do we want joy? Like that's like what we do as a practice. So that's kind of reward, even though we are not paid, like we have the joy, so we keep doing. And then if workshop, I don't know, maybe that brings us joy, like some sort of. But then if this labor thing beats the the level of joy, then probably we want some kind of remuneration, and then that's like that go back to what you said about the institution, and then we have to kind of take one of those, like money or joy.
But the way I do my workshops until now is they are always very, very, very joyful. And I take a lot from it, especially the online ones, because the online ones are constructed around an idea of trust and attention and paying attention to the people, never too big groups. And it always works. I'm always astonished, but it works. As soon as you can build a situation where people trust you, that they are important and that they cannot do anything wrong in what you are doing, then it works. Then they start listening, flowing, doing things. And if you react to that, and I think I see that in what you two are doing all the time also, it's not, you are not directing anything, you are just doing things and having all what you have open to capture what's happening and to work with that. That's what I see in what you do. And I try to create the same thing in workshops.
Okay.
But for you, it's maybe more difficult because unless you work with people who code.
But this is not, I mean, I think something that it was clear to us, like we start speaking about this in the impulse dance, that actually at some point we thought, yes, you know, like, let's say that if you want somehow, but there was this question like, do we need some kind of like procedurals until people are able somehow to literally some kind of like glitch images or something like that. So then we have to go through some procedures of like working with the computer in a certain way that anyway can be minimized until the minimum point, and we can work toward encoding towards to create frameworks that allow this for people. But I think we talk in the impulse dance among many things that there is that I think it's more interesting actually to use is not, because that's the technical side of it. That's what we do. So it's the technical side, but I think what is interesting is not that for us, but it's just actually what we're doing. So it's more the idea behind how to use the medium, basically. It's more the idea behind the tools. So it's about exploring the mediums, the mediums that we have. So then that we can start speaking in abstraction, in an abstract way, in different, to basically define how to create a workshop that not necessarily needs to have to deal with the same tools in the same order how we do. Of course, then still we can use computers, but people maybe we can suggest some things, but we don't have to spend 3 hours in setting up systems.
So for example, like, I don't know what's the good example, but not using code, but maybe we can use some kind of predefined tools, or even like go for something like just with movements. We can do a lot. I mean, Annie, you do like a lot with words, like movements. Maybe that's kind of the avenue. Or we can remix the videos, what we produced, or people can like record something on and then use that as a material and then just creates kind of feedback in a way. So these kinds of things we are talking about. So without, like, how do we do it without code for the workshop ideas?
Yeah, but still, when I hear you talking, I hear that you are the center of it. Is that necessary? I think people need to feel that they are the center. If you in workshops,
like something that I like, something that I think that will be nice is like, I'm speaking this for my experience with Puff. I don't know if you know this place that it was founded by this guy called Jan Ritzema.
Yeah. I've never been there, but I know lots of people who've been there.
Yeah, so Jan Ritzema passed away last week, by the way.
Yeah.
So I think that's a place that it's I would like to say the way how you understand your relation with PAF, it takes some days, because the first 3 days are very confusing because there are not guidelines, and it's a huge house, like with capacity for more than 100 people. So, and there is no guidelines, there's a self-checking, there's no symbols, and there's nothing designed. So basically you have to find your way through exchanging with other people. And then just your common sense in terms of how you think you can do things. So I'm saying this because ideally I imagine a workshop where somehow like PAF-alike, in the sense that people can find their space and feel comfortable in the space, doing what they want to do within a framework that we propose.
But does it have to be within the framework we propose?
Yeah, but then the framework can be loose as possible. I mean, that's the whole question. I mean, maybe that's the whole question. Like what is the framework? Like, what are the elements that we're going to use there?
There's some. I also have a project that's called Constellations, where we are with 3 generations of women and we do things together. We started with 3 of us and we had 6 sessions of online working where one of us proposed something and the others would help to discover what the other person proposed. Then we wanted to make that group bigger because we liked it very, very much what we were doing. So we asked 3 other people to join. Then I didn't immediately notice, but then there came a problem because those other 3 considered there was an end to what we were doing. While Constellations didn't have an end, even we called it anarchives, but not archives, what we had, because there is no end, the same things you are saying. And until today, those 3 new people somehow didn't catch that. They want to get something out of it. They want to make an artwork.
Yeah.
It needs to lead somewhere. And it's very difficult for them to do something at the end that you call an anarchive. That is not an archive, it's not an artwork, but it has to be done in order to have a kind of trace of what has been happening in the research we were doing.
And how did you find?
I'm just telling that to see that might be a big problem.
Was it like through open call, or you talked like privately to have the new members?
No, we asked them because we knew them. We were 3 and each of us invited 1 other person that we knew and that we thought might be interested and interesting.
Yeah, I think the way how I perceived that in dance that was happening maybe 5 years ago was like the boom of this what is called like dance and as an expanded field, or like dance 2.0. It was bring somehow through there was not a clear intention in what there was what dance was doing. So certainly there were no dancing, and there were a lot of different aspects. Like I can recall like examples like Martin Spamber was doing things where he just put a lot of different elements in the space and there's not too much happening. At some point people will start dancing, but you don't really get when and if it's important to the space that you are part of it. But I'm mentioning this here because I see it work because the performances were really long. So then the people have the time, as I was mentioning also with PAF, I think there is this connection that people have the time to deconstruct and understand what is expected from them to do in the space. While if it's something that is in a shorter period, you might get just confused and you cannot get out of the confusion.
So let's say if you're in PAF for like 1 hour, then you just have the confusing moment and that's it.
Yeah, I think so. Like Naoto it took some days to you, no? Like was it like that to you? Like the first days, I didn't also bother you too much. You were answering me when I asked you some things. I thought like you don't need to say this to me. Like I just you do whatever you need to do. And then
I have to say, like was fortunate that we went together. So, you know, if I need to ask you something, I can ask, like, trust you. And that's like already something. And maybe that's like kind of leads to the workshop idea, because like I, as a workshop participant, I don't want to be thrown into that kind of, you know, chaos or like nothing that I have to navigate all the way to find something in like 3 hours or like even 7 days. It's just so overwhelming. But if there's like, for example, in my case at PUF, like I could trust you. So that's always like grounding. And I know that I will navigate somehow.
Interesting. This is interesting because in PUF, like we bring, and this is in relation to the workshop. So there is this idea in PUF that has been evolving years into something now is called like accountability. So because PUF is such a big space and you don't know what is going on, that life happens sometimes and you feel affected somehow. So you need to find somebody accountable or for acts that happens towards you or something that is certainly disturbing you in a way that you can just let it pass. So we don't talk about a police or anything like that, but it's just there's some people who are part of the accountability those days. And then if something happens that you really need to speak with somebody, then you can go and contact them. So I'm thinking that maybe in this idea of workshop, I like somehow this element of not necessarily be in front of the workshop, but somehow be accountable, or like maybe not, that's not the right word for the workshop, but just making sure that the people understand that if they get lost, they can ask for help. Yeah.
If they get lost or if they get angry or anything, that's a good technique. But when you talk like that, I'm thinking all of a sudden, what would you like? Why would you like to share, or what would you like to share? Because that was the starting point. You do a workshop because of what? I do my workshop next Sunday because I've discovered it's nice moving with other people in front of a screen, and it gives a kind of freedom and a kind of experience that's very, very special. And I have the pretension I can do things to make other people experience also that same joy. So I give them something.
Yeah.
But that's quite constrained, and it's quite clear. It's very determined in a certain way, and inside this determination, there's a lot of freedom, but the borders are clear.
By the way,
and
is
so
there still slots for your workshop?
yesterday they said there's no place anymore.
Oh, no. I mean, I actually checked the email and I couldn't register because I'm traveling on that day. But anyways, I will put links to the, also like you have a performance on which day is it? Thursday, is it?
Yeah, Thursday. But to be
So-
honest, that's the first time we are going to record before, because we couldn't all be online on Thursday.
Okay.
So we will be recording on Wednesday.
I see.
Yeah,
I'll put links anyways in the description for advertisement.
Super.
Yeah.
I think like so from my perspective, like when we think in the workshop, like I have been in dance, then constantly, then I will give workshops as a dancer, as a professor, a teacher of sharing knowledge of in dance in different frameworks since maybe 18 years ago. Different dance techniques and stuff, but body relate were very much classical, almost were. Yeah, what I'm saying this is because when I think in the idea of the workshop, and then I think in what can we share from what we do, is that there is so many gestures There's so many gestures that we have found within what we do with Naoto and me, but it's because we have been insisting in the format for more than 1.5 years or more. So there are so many codes, they are not ciphered, but we understand them between Naoto and me. So there are so many gestures in relation to specifically the body in relation to the video, which is that will be like something interesting, like specifically to work in the workshop. But there, so we do it now is automatically because this is our practice. So to share this, to share the practice, the embodied practice of working with technology, or to share the queer conversation between technology and bodies, I think then we have to go into dance for a while. And I have shared this idea with Naoto, because his dance at the core is an embodied experience. So you cannot basically, you can read about dance, but dance is just when you're dancing, and it's just something that you see comes in your body when you go back again and again, and you have this joy of dancing. And even for instance, like in contemporary dance, in classes, in ballet classes, a ballet teacher can give a class by being sitting and then just giving the comments, because it's a codified technique. But as contemporary dance, as a class, people use just sounds and boom, pa pa pa, whoosh. Like those are the person needs to move to give the class. So I'm saying this because there is a lot that in that respect, like we have so many gestures that Naoto have with his computer and his framework. I have so many gestures that I have with my computer. And then a part of that, then we have the exchange that we understand. Now we do together. Now we go solo. Now I go to the other room. Now I go running. Like there's so many gestures that we have built upon. All of those are coming from a physical perspective. That if we want to speak then about the workshop, that's what I was mentioning to Naoto, then I just feel then is more delicate than when speaking about technical procedures in technology, because that's just that's technique. And then it's about like then rationally thinking which framework to use, how to connect step 1, 2, 3, and coding and different technical practices. But then the body practice is something that is and yeah, it's something that we will like to try that. That's something that becomes in the conversation often lately with Naoto, to have the framework to share body and knowledge about body somehow between the two of us, not meaning that, yeah, just to share, to think about, to be in the space and think together, but what are we doing? What is the body doing in this moment?
But you are thinking about doing that online or in space?
I mean, basically, like I think in short, what it happens is I said to Naoto after we did the performances, the 3 performances, and then we have some feedback from Daniela. I remember after I told you, I said to Naoto, this is what I'm speaking when I sometimes I talk with Naoto about choreography. Then I was mentioning to Naoto, this is what I mean. Is all of those are choreographic aspects, and I study dance, so this is something that I just thought that we should explore the dance side of what we do. But for that, then normally we need the space and to be in the same space.
You should talk with Daniel, because Daniel Pinheiro, he is really thinking about exactly these things also. And when we have our distant movements practice with Muriel, me and Daniel, Muriel is the choreographer and the dancer originally, and she still is. And she's doing a thesis. And Daniel is the one who's always looking for what is the space in what we do online? What is equivalent, or how does it work when I am in space with people? what is happening online that has the same strength, force, power.
Mm.
He's thinking about these kind of things. He always comes back to that, and he's never satisfied if he cannot have at a certain point a feeling as if the body is there. That's very difficult. It's almost impossible. So often we don't succeed at all from his point of view.
Yeah.
By the way, like what's really, maybe I talked about this with you individually, but the practice what Jorge and I do is like really visual. Like we always look at the computer, look at each other. And what I like you do with Muriel, Daniel, often you close your eyes and move together, and of like the how you connected with other people are with sound. You ask everyone to leave the sound, the microphone open on, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, but like we come back to this idea of the space, like how we can exist together while we're online, sort of. I just thought like that's interesting to me, like because it's like completely like what we do is like different extreme in a way, like high super visual and like no vision. But we come back to the same question in a way, I think.
Yeah, I was just wondering now, did you ever organize things in a way that you could interfere in the computer of the other?
To control the others.
Yeah, the
Remote
computer of the other
control.
one, so that you can control also what the other is coding.
In the
And the
physical
other way
space, we have
around.
done it. I mean, we did not in internet, but like with remote control, I think it's called. But like in the physical space, like I remember when was the first, I remember like the first performance we have in Note in Frankfurt. Yeah, I think my experience was like Naoto was really difficult to really let me do something with something, because either also he has more knowledge of what he's doing than I do. So but in the impulse dance we tried that. You remember that when we did the general rehearsal with no internet? Remember that we have no internet and we have the general rehearsal, and then at the end we were just using my computer because the other computer was blowing, so it was impossible. And then basically we were just the two of us in one computer. And that day was also very nice, because before people were asking us like, what do you guys need? And they were really freaking out because there's this like really impulse dance is about dance, so they don't really have the experience to how to deal with these things. And then we go there and the people are asking us, what do you guys need? And often like, what do you guys need? And we talk with Naoto like, what do we need? And I answer to them like, we need internet. And then we go and check the internet for 2 days before, and the internet was not working.
Yeah.
So then we say like, we managed somehow to do the performance without the internet. So then at that moment for me was really opening, because then I thought like, we don't need anything. And then when I answered to them like, what do you guys need? Because we are gonna work about dance and technology, so they need to know, I don't know what they imagine that we need. And I say to them like, just relax, we don't need anything. And that's part of the performance. We embodied uncertainty and we share it with you guys. We don't know, but that's okay. And then we just share it with you in a soft space. And that's what we did. So that's to say that we were using the other's computers. And now when we are in the same space, we don't have problem to be in the other computer. No, in PAF was easy also sometimes.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if it's interesting, but you could use TeamViewer. That's an application where you can share computers. So if you have installed that, I'm just imagining you, one in Brussels and the other in, where are you now, Karlsruhe?
Cologne.
In Cologne. And you are working and on your own computer, but at the same time, you're interfering in what the other is doing on his computer. And all that, because you always control everything through the vision. In fact, that's your medium. That's your contact line. No? Could you say that?
The medium, what did you say, Annie? Can you repeat?
That your contact line, when you do your practice and performances, the contact line is the visual.
Yes, the video, like that's what I like in the research we said, I said it in my words, there is a new onto-epistemological understanding of the body in relation to the video. So is the video is the medium, yes. The visual is the video is the medium. It's through the video that we communicate, yeah.
Yeah, and you talk every now and then. So, but that's you only use in a pragmatic way, as far as I saw.
I think so.
Yeah. I try to understand that the contact line is visual between you. And then if you start mixing that up, if you don't control your own square anymore, then you get a hybrid.
What do you mean?
But anyway,
I'm trying to imagine like how it's
not
going
what
to
you
be.
were want to talk
No,
about.
but that can be like something we can try at one moment, just to experiment how it's going to work, because I will open like Live Lab, which is like the video call, what we use in Jorge's computer to see myself. And then I start coding on Jorge's computer to change images of Jorge and I, and also but Jorge is controlling my computer to change images. I don't know, like it feels like I often try to not like add more layers, but this can be something to, you know, just to play with, and maybe we find something that I cannot imagine.
I like confusion.
Yeah.
And I also noticed that all the time, I cannot stand things that stay the same. So that also means that as an artist, I've touched on a lot of things somehow. But, and that's also difficult about workshops and institutions. They also try to put you in a certain, they give you a sign on you, they stamp you, and then you have to be like that. And it's also always about escaping. And after, how long do you work together? 1 year?
1.5.
Oh, yeah, already. Yeah, some confusion might be nice too. I don't know.
But I'm confused. Like, I mean, if we speak about confusion, I don't understand what now it's doing. Like, I mean, we are something that was like and feedback from Daniela when she saw the pieces, and these things I think is more clear when like in the same space. That's why, for instance, I'm not completely sure. I mean, sure, like will be interesting to try the remote control, but practically speaking, I think just for the side of the technology, I think it's just adds too much delay in different terms that we might try. But what I think is it happened because already it happens in the space. I think would be more interesting. For instance, like the last performance we did now, also you run at some point away from the space that I was, and I was pissed off at you, like why you're leaving me here. But I have some computer there also. So then, for instance, this is something that we can explore more in the space. I think the presentiality of you know what it means if you have 3 computers, when you use which computer. Yeah, but this is the performance side of it. And I was speaking about like confusion because I think very much what happens in a practice is that that's what we said is a communication between technology and bodies, because we use so many different things that is so confusing very fast from the beginning. Like, and still after 1.5 years, like I don't understand how things are happening very often. So, and you can hear also when we like in the practice, you will hear like me or Naoto. Sometimes I curse in Spanish, and then Naoto will say like, don't say that. Like, this is very often what happens in the space.
I don't say that anymore.
No, you don't say that anymore.
Anyways. No, but
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Please.
It's something I noticed also. I never, people from dance, usually they need to prepare their body. And they want to be with their body, be conscious of their body, etc., etc. I never see you doing that. So how do you trigger your own movements, or where does it come from? How you move? What is that part of? You play with code, you play with technology. How do you play with your body? Is that?
You want to go first now?
Oh, is that also a question to me? No, I think
Yeah,
the answer would be like, we do it at least like 1 hour. So we kind of warm up. For me, like first 30 minutes is like warm up. Like sometimes I'm just like, doing some repetitive movements and just to get into the mood of moving, basically, and while coding. And that's kind of something that I kind of developed through the practices, that now I feel like, yeah, I can do a little bit of coding and then I feel stiff and then I start moving and then I'm like kind of getting bored. So I change the code. And that's like kind of I would say like a juicy moment, like not just like we always have this climax at the end, but at the same time, this warm up is also very nice, like something that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I think I subscribe very much but this is the kind of thing that I said first. This is things that already are kind of like, we do this in this way. Like the beginning, I feel also I'm warming up. Like then I'm just in between, yeah, coding, and then I move a beat. Then I will start from time to time, put a song for whatever reason. Maybe I have a reason, maybe I don't have a reason. Then I will let my body go. Then I will then my body takes me to a different sub persona within me, and I do that consciously. So I try to do an exercise of self-dissociation, what I'm trying as much as possible to avoid this main thing that is me right now. So Jorge, and I try to get to other states that I will do also in dance. Will I try to, through catharsis, get to different things. And these different personalities, all of them, they have different ways to express. And I will try to do that in a practice. No.
This is like, to me, it's really like connected to the earlier like question about like what do we want to, like what's the message from the workshop that we want to deliver. And that's like, from my perspective, I agree with what Jorge said, but like for me what's more important is like how can we change the way how, let's say, dancers and like programmers work together. Because I've seen like so many times that dancers, let's say, like they warm up because they need to, if they need to move with projection, whatever that the programmers want to test. And then often programmers say that, okay, I need 10 more minutes to fix it. And then this just like, creates so much tension because it's actually not 10 minutes, but they need like actually 1 hour. And the dancers are so pissed off because they're like ready to move and then they have to wait for 1 hour and then they'll just call it for a day. And then, it never like, it's always difficult for them to have like same rhythm to work together. And then what we do in the practice is that we kind of do it at the same time. Like that's, for me, like it works really well, like code a little bit and move a little bit. And that's not a performance, it is a practice, but that itself is, I feel, so rich. And that may be something that it doesn't have to be like exactly like coding, but something we could introduce to dancers and programmers.
Then it becomes a performance when you have an audience.
Right.
Do you think about that? Because for me, that's really the difference. The audience is there.
Yeah, of course. Like that's what I was meant. Yeah, of course. Maybe I'm just speaking like as if you know what we like. So one of the things so we have like we were invited at the Impulse Dance in Vienna to give a talk about we were invited to this symposium to speak about the framework, so which was about digital dance and technology. And the easiest way, so we were thinking now, what is the easiest way to talk about this that is so complex, is just to show it and then after to talk. And that's the way how we plan. So we show and then after we talk, and when we finish, actually then what just we realize is like, wow, wait, this was a performance. And I remember I said to Naoto, wait, this is a performance because we just have this audience. And then from that moment, then we thought, okay, so we have this that we call branches. So we have different, like the chat is one branch. We have different branches from the practice. And so one branch then now we're trying to explore is the performance. That's why I invite Naoto to PUF. And then we were 2 weeks in the same space and we perform 2 times. So we have so far, I think more than 50 times of digital practices, and we have 3 performances, let's say.
Yeah. Then I'm interested in knowing, because I think it's very different when you're physically in a space and you have audience than when you have online audience.
Absolutely.
That is, yeah. So you agree, because as soon as you are in space with the audience, your body becomes an element in space.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes also visible for the audience. So that's also something that makes it completely different.
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage that, or is nothing?
I haven't managed yet, I feel. I mean, not managed, but like performing in front of like real audience
I
is
think it,
another thing. Like it just triggers so many different things.
yeah.
And yeah, and maybe you can elaborate more.
No, but I think there's because in the experience that we have so far is that now to get more loose somehow, and I get more restrict somehow. So I go back to my own traumas in dance on the stage, and but then in somehow then I use them in my, so my emotion becomes that because I'm not denying them, and then Naoto gets super free, and then he start running and just doing a lot of stuff, a lot of the movement, let's say. Daniela was saying that she thought that you were a dancer, you know, like a because you were like moving so much, like a
It
and I
happened
cannot
same
move
at
now.
impulse dance, yeah.
Yeah, and the same at the impulse dance. But at the impulse dance was clear. We said like we have the clear decision that I said to Naoto. We agree like you go, and then somehow I have more a communicative role. And then Naoto went completely loose and danced all over the place. And so
It's really very nice what you tell now, Jorge, because I once did a performance with 4 performers. I invited 4 people, 2 who had a background in one in theater and the other in dance, and 2 who didn't have a background with an audience to play in front of an audience. And the last 2 were much better than the first 2, because immediately when they see an audience, they become something, and they become the dancer, the actor. They become so self-aware that it's if you want something natural, it isn't natural anymore.
Yeah, or it's a different.
That's my experience. It was amazing for me to see that.
Yeah, so I think it was like for instance when we saw this and we showed this at PUF, and then Daniela was giving some feedback. For instance, she was mentioning also that but I think in our case what it works is because I think it's honest. So said that I don't know, yeah, it becomes honest in that sense. Like I think we were doing that performance for 3 hours. Was 3 hours?
3 hours last one, yeah.
3 hours.
That's
And
nice too.
I think in 3 hours at some point, I guess I did some movements. Like there was just one time that I did like I do capoeira for many years. So I guess I did something in relation with that, like some sequence that I know from capoeira by heart, which are spectacular somehow. And I did just one movement, I guess, during the 3 hours, like really a part of that, I guess I did not do too much. And Daniela was mentioning also that, you know, like how they have this balance where Naoto was very much moving, and and then at some point it happens also this virtuoso movement that I'm doing where you can see, wow, this guy can do these things, but at the same time it just disappears in the space like nothing happened. So there are different elements that were on the spot happened, and there was no intention. I mean, we didn't plan to do these things. It just happened because we are in this space, and I think it works very well. Because we are not
You
trying
can
to
use it also. Huh? You can also use it.
I think as long as you are, I mean, that's I speak for myself. I think as long as you are comfortable what you're doing, then everything is fine. If I decide to run, if I decide to sleep, I sleep, and it should be fine.
Yeah.
But then
I
if
feel
that's
like
what I'm saying,
for me,
that's what I'm speaking about. Honesty. It has to be an honest space.
I also like
Yeah, and
what I
it's
found.
interesting. Oh, sorry.
No, but what I found in the last two or maybe all the hybrid performances is that now I can understand that we need some kind of structure. Otherwise, like I'm challenging myself every time, and it's like I'm like released from the cage, but at the same time, like I really have to like constantly challenge myself to go crazy. It's in a way it's natural from me, but also it's very challenging, and it would be nice like especially when we have like 3 hour of performance, we need some kind of coming back to the choreography, we need something so that I know that I can do it in 3 hours and not like challenging myself every moment.
Yeah. But what I think it's really interesting to have two bodies that have a different background, and that's interesting already for the audience that's there live, to have this difference. So that so you shouldn't bother about it.
No, not at all. I mean, but that's, I mean, how to say this is like, because we are talking here about like when you speak about the performance or being in the space, that you speak about choreography, like and so which is basically how you structure elements in space for certain given time, not necessarily bodies, but just how you structure space and time. That's its choreography. And then I think what is tricky also, that from what we do is like, no matter what we do, it works, is because we are not aiming for doing something good. And that's something that is clear to me. Like when we do the performances, somehow they work. Like the third one, when we did in chapel, that was, I think, too much because of the space was really strong. It was a chapel inside of PAF. It was really strong. But the one we did with audience, with Daniela, I think that was a very balanced performance. And Daniela was speaking about it like for more than half an hour nonstop. And she's somebody who is very well established. She knows what she's doing. As she's not a choreographer, but she works a lot as a peacemaker, let's say, which is a bit funny of peacemaker. Sorry, this is an inside joke because of motion bank.
Peace or peace.
But no, yeah. So what I was trying to say is that that's the tricky part of this is like, no matter what we do, then it works. But, and then I having this conversation about some PhD that they proposed me when I was in Ars Electronica, and some conversation, some feedback that a friend of mine give me is that until you don't put yourself in the space of to build something, let's say work towards a performance, because so far we can work in this way and we just don't prepare because we have the practice and we understand the gestures, then we make it work, because there is a natural balance between Naoto is very different and I'm very different, and by luck, by hazard, we met at some point and it works. We balance different things just naturally. So then nevertheless, if we speak about performance, or I think the practice itself also, until we don't, let's say, if you speak about the performance, like commit to do performance research. So when we explore the choreographic aspects of being in space, and then it will state as something different. I don't know, and that's more like an open, I guess, question, or like something that is in my head that I know as a choreographer. What we do, it works because it's not trying to evolve. This is what I'm speaking about in simple terms. What we do in somehow is not aiming clearly about evolving something, but we just practice, and then just we change the space and somehow it worked. So we're not trying to evolve this. And people would like have a feedback is like, and I understand also as a choreographic piece, to make it grow, we need to have a normal research in terms of dance research and performance research. And I'm like,
don't you need something that gives it content so that you can deepen what you are doing somehow, or put it in a different way? Is it maybe now about your relation, what you are doing, and about how you can work together? Is maybe that the subject you are treating now? I don't know, but there must be something why it works. There is something at work why it works. And it's probably your relation. I'm not sure.
But I think, yeah, no, that's somehow, I think I shared this idea with Naoto, like when we have this residence in PAF, virtual residence, where I was in PAF for 2 months and Naoto was in Cologne. And I think at that point we break some things, and we define some of the structures that we have afterwards. That the first thing that we have like we said, when we're gonna work, we work together for 1 day, the whole day. So we met at some point in the morning, then we call that development time. Then we basically create a choreography, but it was split in development time. There were 3 aspects, no? And the chat?
Well, I think, yeah, development, practice and chat. But we have like little conversation in between to catch up.
But
like
the development time was basically what I was mentioning, that because the development time was basically, it was the moment that we just in the morning say hello. So what is in terms of development, if you think about coding, there was just basically the moment that I just connect with Naoto and say, hey, how are you? And this for me meant like, that's the safe ground that I have from that, but like I understand that I can trust this person. I will share the space, this virtual space with him for the whole day. And we can talk not necessarily about the practice. And I can tell him about how I feel and how I'm suffering and just different aspects. And also Naoto can do the same.
Just like how we would meet in real life and just, have coffee, basically.
Yeah. So, but then I think if we speak about, so that's I'm saying this to what you're saying, Annie, that for sure, like the possibility, what it makes it possible that somehow things can move and still work is because I trust Naoto trust me. There is this trust that is built in time. But then when I think in work also, I will say that what I want and what I think we have developed that I think is groundbreaking is that we found an embodied work with code that is difficult to share, because we break the code and we embodied the code, or now like technological flesh somehow. We found gestures, what I will call gestures, in how to ignite processes within my body that they go with the computer also, and they go back and forth. Those are many. So this is what I said is a cipher. It's a code that's full of gestures that somehow we built in time. So it works for Naoto and me, and I think that's what is groundbreaking. But it's difficult to share the experience with other people, like because of the embodied aspect of it. Because there's a lot going on in the body that is not spoken somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yay. I would love to see you.
I guess we will do something in Berlin. Right? So if you can come to Berlin in January, we will be showing something probably there in the HZT.
I don't think so, but you never know. You never know. In Berlin, is that a dance space or is it something else?
The HZT is like the whole, it's the University of Dance of Berlin. I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is because that's also something we touched a little bit on. You can do these things, but if you want spaces to invite you or to give you opportunities, you have to be clearly defined as, because otherwise they have difficulties with it. And not maybe the people who invite you, but the people who pay for it.
Yeah. We have already
That's
like,
all. That's really one of the biggest difficulties in what you are doing, probably.
yeah, we
Yeah.
experienced that. Like sometimes people said, we like what you do, but we don't know where to put it.
Yeah. Yeah, but you are aware of it, and you should be, because, for instance, uh, I'm much, a lot of what I know or what I feel in dance comes from that I went a lot of to things here in Montpellier at the time of Mathilde Monnier, but now also it's Martina Roesam and Bojana Kunst
Ah, yeah,
who
Bojana is part of.
introduced me to certain things. And at a certain point, they wanted me to invite me at Gießen at the theater and performance things. It was clearly impossible because I wasn't really from dance.
Yeah, this is funny. Like I saw Bojana. Bojana is somebody who is very active in PUF, of course, and I know Bojana a lot from dance. From it's part of the dance. Yeah. So, and Bojana was there when we were performing. Bojana was there when we were performing in PUF.
During the meeting.
Yeah, during the meeting. But also we took the decision to like to present the performance when they were doing something else. So I mean, I did it consciously now too, like this thing, because I know Bojana was there. And Daniela, when Daniela said to us, invite these people, like so it was partly something that I thought it was good at that moment because of the state that the performance is at the moment. I thought it was good in that way.
Yeah. But out of curiosity, like how would you describe, like, I don't know if maybe you write in your bio, but what is your title, Annie? Like, are you net artist?
It changes. It changes in the. It's part of the context.
I see.
I stress either this one or that one, but you should know now, I didn't do it in the exactly right way, probably. In the past, I've always said, I don't mind, you call me whatever you want, because I touch on everything, and
Right.
I am whatever you need me to be, as long as I can do my own thing. That's a good way, but that means indeed that certain people don't accept you. You have to choose somehow to be part of a certain world, and you can be part of two, but not a 3, 4, 5 is very difficult.
Because I think, like, on one hand, it's difficult for us to fit into something. I mean, for the institution to fit ourselves to something, because there's a lot of confusion. But on the other hand, we can just frame it as this is a hybrid performance, and then it's easier for, you know, festival program or whatever to put it in there, or like we do net art, and then maybe someone who's doing net art exhibition can invite us. I don't know. So that I think it's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, but festivals have less money than the dance world. If you can enter something like the dance world, it's much better.
That's what I saw. That was what I was sharing with Naoto. Yeah. Do you see?
Exactly. No, I know it.
I was sharing with Naoto these things. Yeah.
I say
I work off because
maybe you should cut the conversation before this.
Okay, we don't go.
Don't put this online.
We don't go further. But this is, I think, this is like a general fact. Anyways, we don't go further. But I don't edit these videos. That's how we keep up with like uploading videos. So I hope it's okay. I hope it's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
If it's a real problem, just write to me later. Anyways, yeah. So maybe it's like a good time to wrap up.
I think so.
Or we don't have to wrap up. Maybe like we can like try to make this as a like a ritual to finish with a hashtag, because we always talk about this. Like this idea comes back once in a while to think about how do we summarize this chat as a hashtag, or we don't have to. It can be something completely different, but
I don't have an hashtag. Maybe if you have one.
That's a good
okay.
one. I don't have a hashtag.
I don't know.
You made a hashtag.
I like that.
Good.
I know it.
I like that. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Annie, for your time. It was a pleasure to have you, and yeah,
Thank you so much.
to hear your
I love talking to you. So if ever you want to talk again in the future, don't hesitate.
Thank you. Yes.
yeah, I think we will
let's do it
like
again.
definitely more in this process. I think there is so much experience that you have in I don't think necessarily what we do is exactly what you do, but you have a lot of experience in things that somehow we use in different ways. So I think there is so much that we could learn from just talking with you and see what you do also.
If ever you have a long residency and I'm not far away, I will come and look at you
We have a residence.
and
Okay.
comment on it. That would be nice.
All right. Great.
Bye-bye, boys.
Bye. Thank you so much.